In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. Have you not considered, O Muhammad, how your Lord dealt with the companions of the elephant?
Commentary. The subject matter of this surah. This surah refers to the story of the people of the elephants who came with an army of elephants for the purpose of destroying the house of Allah in the Holy Kaaba in Makkah. But their plan backfired and the divine scourge overtook them. Allah destroyed the army with a flock of ordinary birds. Thus their plans were foiled and thwarted. When did the event take place? This event took place in the very year in which the Holy Prophet was born at Makkah, according to some traditions and the popular view among the historians. Ibn Kathir. The scholars of Hadith have taken this event as a special type of mu'jiza, miracle of the Holy Prophet, but the term mu'jiza, in its real sense, refers to an abnormal event shown by Allah to prove the claim of a prophet to having been sent by him. Therefore, a mu'jiza is shown after a prophet's divine commission. However, sometimes it happens that a miraculous event takes place before a prophet's claim to prophethood. This, in the parlance of the scholars of Hadith, is called irhaz, which means prologue or introduction. The word iraz means a foundation stone kamas. As the miraculous events taking place before the advent of prophets, or before the claim to prophethood are meant to introduce and affirm that soon a particular prophet will be divinely commissioned, they are referred to as irhaz. Many miraculous incidents of this nature had occurred before the birth and the advent of the Holy Prophet, and one of them was the incident of the people of the elephants, who were miraculously prevented by the heavenly scourge from destroying the house of Allah. Story of the people of the elephants. Ibn Kathir, a leading authority on prophetic tradition and history, recounts the story as follows. Yemen was under the control of the rulers of Himyar. They were idolaters. Their last king was Nuwas. An idolater himself, was the enemy of the righteous Christians of his time, who believed in and worshipped one Allah. He persecuted the believers who were opposed to idol worship by burning them alive. Most scholars agree that he killed, in cold blood, by throwing about 20,000 sincere and righteous Christians in his city into a large fire pit, burning them alive in an effort to get them to give up their sincere religion. This is the story of the people of fire pit referred to in Surah Al-Fil, ayah 4-7. 2 men somehow managed to escape from him. They fled to Syria and took refuge with Caesar, who was himself a Christian, and the emperor of Syria. They requested the emperor to avenge this cruel act of Nuwas. Caesar wrote to Negus, the king of Abyssinia, now Ethiopia, who was closer to the home of the man. Najashi sent 2 governors with him, Arbat and Abraha, along with a huge army. The army invaded Yemen and freed the whole country from the possession of Himyar. The Nuwas tried to escape, but was drowned in the sea and died. Yemen thus became part of the Abyssinian dominion, and Abraha was appointed its viceroy. However, he and Arbat fought each other, until Arbat was eventually killed and Abraha emerged victorious. The latter was appointed the commander of the Abyssinian army in Yemen, and the governor of that region. Having captured Yemen, he built a superbly luxurious cathedral in his area. The purpose was to attract the people of Yemen to make pilgrimage to this cathedral instead of Kaaba in Makkah. It was huge and tall, so that a person standing at the bottom was not able to see the top. He decorated the structure with gold, silver, and other precious gems. In short, he meant it to be an architectural masterpiece, second to none or unsurpassed in the world, to be revered by all and sundry, and divert pilgrims from the sacred mosque in Makkah to his cathedral in Yemen. He did this after he had witnessed the love and enthusiasm of the Yemeni Arabs, which were the same as those felt all over the Arabia for the Kaaba, with the aim of making them forsake their attachment to the mosque of Mecca and turn instead to his new luxurious cathedral. Thus he proclaimed throughout his kingdom that no one should ever visit the Kaaba in Mecca, and that the pilgrimage should from now on take place to his so-called Kaaba in Yemen. Although the Arabs were idol worshippers, the love and reverence for the religion of Prophet Ibrahim and the Kaaba had permeated their hearts. As a result, the Andan, Cotton, and Quraysh tribes were enraged and infuriated by this proclamation. One night, someone entered the church and defecated in it. According to other narratives, a nomadic tribe halted near the church and started a fire for their own needs. The wind on that day was blowing violently, and the cathedral caught on fire and sustained much loss. When Abraha came to know about it, and learned that a Quraysh had done this, he swore to march to the house of Makkah and destroy it stone by stone. Thus he prepared himself and set out with a huge and powerful army, so that none might prevent him from carrying out his mission. He asked for Najashi's permission. He permitted him and sent for him, particularly for this expedition, a special elephant whose name was Mamat. It was unusually huge in size and powerful in strength, the like of which had never been seen before. The king of Abyssinia sent 8 more elephants as reinforcements for the army. Their intention was to use this extraordinary elephant to demolish the Kaaba. They planned to do this by fastening chains to the pillars of the Kaaba and placing the other ends around the neck of the elephant. Then they would make the elephant pull on them in order to tear down the walls of the Kaaba, God forbid. All at once, when the Arabs heard of Abraha's expedition, they considered it their moral obligation to defend the sacred house and thwart the evil plans of the conspirators. Thus the Arabs raised a large army under the command of Hunafar, a Yemeni Arab. He called the Arabs to go to war against Abraha and fight in defense of the sacred house, so that the enemy is unable to tear it down. The people responded to him readily and entered into battle with the enemy, but he defeated them. This was due to Allah's will that no humans should protect his house, and his intent to expose the enemy to embarrassment and venerate the sacred sanctuary to the highest degree, though Hunafar was captured and taken prisoner. The army continued on its way until it came to the settlement of the Banu Kalthum tribe. Their leader, Nufail ibn Habib, led his entire tribe against the army, but they too were defeated and Nufail was taken prisoner. Abraha at first decided to kill him, but at second thought he forgave him and took him as his guide to show him the way to Hijaz. When the army approached Haith, the people of Thaqif went out to Abraha. They wanted to pacify him, because they had heard about the fate of those who had resisted him previously. Also, they were afraid that he would demolish their temple consecrated in the name of their idol Al-Lat. Therefore, they did not resist him on the understanding that he would not touch the idol of Lat. He was compassionate to them, and they sent a guide with him by the name of Abu Rigal. When they arrived in a place called Al-Magmas near Makkah, they settled there. This was the pasture where the camels of the Quraysh grazed. Abraha sent his troops on a foray to capture the camels and other grazing animals of the Meccans. They accomplished their mission. They also drove away about 200 camels of Abdul Muttalib, grandfather of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and the leader of the Quraysh. Abraha then sent an emissary named Hamadat al-Humyari to enter Makkah and bring to him the leader of the Quraysh. He mandated him to convey to the leader of the Quraysh his message that the king did not come to fight with the Maccans unless they stood in his way of destroying their sacred sanctuary. Arriving in the city, Hamata was directed to Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim, to whom he communicated Abraha's message. According to Ibn Ishaq's narration, Abdul Muttalib replied, "By Allah, we too have no desire to fight him, nor do we have the might to do so. This is the sacred sanctuary of Allah built by his friend Prophet Ibrahim. If he wills to prevent Abraha from pulling it down, he will protect it. And if he allows him to approach it, by Allah, we have no means to defend it." So Hamata told him, "Come with me to Abraha." So Abdul Muttalib went with him. When Abraha saw him, he was highly impressed because Abdul Muttalib had the most handsome, charming, and attractive personality. He descended from his throne and sat with the ladder on a carpet on the ground. He then said to his interpreter to ask him, "What do you need?" Abdul Muttalib replied to the interpreter, "I want the king to give back my 200 camels which his soldiers have taken from me." Then Abraha told his interpreter to relay to him, "When I first set my eyes on you, I admired you greatly and had great respect for you. But all that is now lost. You speak only of your 200 camels, while you fully well know that I have come to tear down your Kaaba, which is the embodiment of your religion and the religion of your forefathers. You did not even say a single word to persuade me to spare it." Abdul Muttalib calmly responded, "I am the owner of my camels and am concerned about them. I am not the owner of Allah's house. The master of the house knows how best to protect his house." Abraha rudely rebuffed, "Your God cannot protect it from me." Abdul Muttalib made a rejoinder, "Then do as you like or take your chance." According to other narratives, there were other chiefs of Quraysh with Abdul Muttalib at the time of this negotiation. They proposed to Abraha that if he withdrew from the sanctuary, the entire region of Tihama would pay him a third of their agricultural produce annually as tribute. But he turned down the offer. He then gave back Abdul Muttalib's camels to him. Abdul Muttalib took his camels and went back home, ordering his people to leave Makkah and seek shelter at the top of the mountains. He feared that atrocities might be committed by the army against them. Then he went with a few figures of the Quraysh to the sacred sanctuary. He held the metal ring of the door of Kaaba and prayed Allah to give them victory over Abraha and his army. While hanging onto the ring of the Kaaba's door, he earnestly implored, "We have no strength to face the army of Abraha. So, O my Lord, defend your Kaaba." Having so prayed in all earnestness, Abdul Muttalib led all the Makkans to the neighboring mountains, because they were convinced that Allah's scourge would overtake Abraha and his troops. This is the reason why they spoke to Abraha about their camels, and not about the house of Allah. When the next morning dawned, Abraha prepared to enter the sacred city of Makkah. He prepared the elephant named Muhammad and mobilized his army, and they turned the elephant towards the Kaaba. At that moment Nufel ibn Habib, whom Abraha had captured earlier, approached it and stood next to it, and taking it by its ear, he said, "Return safely where you came from, because you are, verily, in the sacred city of Allah." Then he released the elephant's ear, and it knelt and sat down forthwith. The elephant drivers exerted all efforts to persuade the elephant to enter the city, but their efforts were in vain. Then they tried striking it with large iron spears and putting iron arrowheads in its trunk. They beat it on its head with axes and used hooked staffs to pull it out of its resistance and make it stand, but it refused. So they turned it towards Yemen, and it rose and walked quickly. Then they turned it towards Syria, it walked fast. Then they turned it towards the east, and it walked briskly. Then they turned it towards Mecca, it knelt and sat down again. This was one aspect of the manifestation of the divine power unfolding itself miraculously. On the other hand, some flocks of birds were seen coming from the sea. Each bird carried 3 pebbles of the size of gram seeds or lentils, 1 in each claw and 2 in its beak. According to Waqidi's narration, the birds looked unusual, which were never seen before. They looked smaller than pigeons, and their claws were red in color. They flew over Abraha's army and pelted them with the pebbles. Each pebble was more devastating than the bullet of a revolver. When it fell on anything, it tore directly through the body and settled deep in the ground. Seeing the scourge, the elephants fled in panic, except one which was harmed and destroyed by the pebble. Not all of Abraha's men were destroyed instantly. People escaped in different directions. They died excruciatingly on their way back. As Allah had willed that the most distressful scourge should be inflicted upon Abraha, He did not allow him to die immediately. In fact, Allah afflicted him with a deadly disease. A kind of poison spread thoroughly through his entire body and caused every single part to decay. His limbs began to rot and separate from the rest of his body, and he started losing one finger after another. His body was carried back in that state to Yemen. By the time they arrived back in Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, his body was broken down limb by limb until he eventually died. 2 of Muhammad's, named Elephant, drivers remained in Mecca, but both of them became blind and paralyzed. Muhammad ibn Ishaq reports that Sayyidah Aisha, may Allah be pleased with him, narrates that she saw them blind and paralyzed. Her sister Sayyidah Asma, may Allah be pleased with him, says that she saw the 2 blind and paralyzed men begging. The people of the elephants is a momentous event in Arab history, which was witnessed by hundreds of Arabs. It is to this well-known historical incident that this surah refers. Lexical analysis. Verse Surah Al-Fil, Ayah 1, have you not seen how your Lord dealt with the people of the elephant? In the phrase Alam Tara, have you not seen, the second person pronoun refers to the Holy Prophet. It is interesting to note that the event took place before the blessed birth of the Holy Prophet. He could not have seen or witnessed it with his own eyes. However, the incident was so widely known as if the Prophet had seen it with his own eyes, which is a sign of the certainty of its happening. Such a knowledge is described by the word ra'at, seeing. As reported earlier, Sayyidah Aisha, may Allah be pleased with him, and her sister, Sayyidah Asma, may Allah be pleased with him, both say that they had seen the 2 camel drivers had become blind and paralyzed, and used to go around begging. In this way, the traces of this event were seen even after the birth of the Holy Prophet.
Did he not make their plan into misguidance?
See Surah Al-Fil, Ayah 1, for the Tafsir.
And he sent against them birds in flocks.
Verse Surah Al-Fil, Ayah 3, birds in flocks. The word Ababil is plural, and is said to have no singular. It means birds in flocks, or swarms of birds. It is not the name of a particular bird. In Urdu, usually Ababil refers to swallows. They are not implied in the verse as indicated in the above narration. These birds were somewhat smaller in size than pigeon, and they were birds that were never seen before. Said Ibn Jubair, as quoted by Qutb,
striking them with stones of hard clay.
Verse Surah Al-Fil, Ayah 4, stones of baked clay. The word sajil is a compound Persian word, Arabicist, made up of 2 Persian words, sandstone and gil clay. They refer to ordinary or common clay rolled into little balls, and then baked to harden. These pebbles are not heavy or hard like rocks chipped off mountains. They in themselves did not have any devastating power, But it was Allah who created in these stones the high capability of explosion and blowing, of even more than the bullets of a revolver.
And he made them like eaten straw.
Verse Surah Al-Fil, Ayah 5, and thus he turned them into an eaten-up chaff. The word asp means chaff, straw, husk, or bran. Usually the asp is scattered, and when it is eaten or devoured by animals, it does not remain in the same state. This is what happened to Abraha and his army. Conclusion. The miraculous event of the people of the elephant enhanced in the hearts of the entire Arabian society the love, respect, and honor of the Quraysh. When Arabia witnessed that Allah has, on their behalf, miraculously destroyed their enemy, they were convinced that the Quraysh are men of God and custodians of the sacred house of Allah Qutubai. That is why they were respected and protected wherever they went. Although other caravans in Arabia had to fear attacks from highway robbers, the Quraysh traveled untouched and enjoyed high social status. As a result, they could freely and safely carry out their commercial activities in the neighboring states and enjoy economic prosperity. The surah that follows refers to these journeys and invites the Quraysh to be thankful to Allah and worship Him alone for providing them with all of their needs.